The world turns, and with each turn, a change. And each change makes it more complex, unpredictable, enigmatic. The world keeps turning. And from the Pellicer and Heredia practice, we anticipate everything that is going to happen. Brexit, artificial intelligence, new commercial borders, legal tech. The world keeps turning, and it commands the reliance on international lawyers who are capable of interpreting this new reality with integrity, honesty, and transparency, offering answers to so many new questions. Whatever it is, ask us. At Pellicer and Heredia, we know how.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today on this popular webinar about family relocation, looking for international schools, and the importance of having the visas in place. Before we start, let me just introduce in the panel, we have the honor to have on one side, King's College, Alicante, and the head teacher is Simon Wicks. Hello, Simon, good afternoon.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
We've got Irene Gomez from Head of Admissions from King's College. Hello, Irene.
Hi, good afternoon.
And from the side of the law, we've got the international lawyer, Pedro Heredia, who will speak about the visas types of things. Hello, Pedro.
Hi, Ignacio. Hola, hello, everyone.
Right. I mean, before we just pass over to Simon and Irene and Simon, I would like to just bring to the attention of everyone that the new law about the Nomad Visa just came into force on the 1st of January 2023. It's a very popular visa because we never had before. We used to have a non-lucrative visa, which really was a problem to really work in Spain because you were not allowed to work in Spain. But there were some areas where you could work from home, but Social Security would not recognize you here, and had issues about taxation, even though the courts did accept that was allowed. The Extranjería office will probably give you problems, or the consulates from the origin will give you problems. Now, after the approval of the Nomad Visa, and Pedro will explain, we had the opportunity for those who are abroad and would like to work remotely, even like self-employed or working for an international company, they are able to do it through a special procedure. Not only the visa program is available for those, just for husband and wife and the children, so they will all get the visa. On the other hand as well, you will have the benefits, some of you, to apply for the 24% flat fee during the 5 years of your visa, which it could be very attractive for you. Now, one of the questions that we have many clients, when they come and contact us about organizing their visa, they ask for recommendation of schools. And they always ask questions: when do I enroll? Is it better to go into an international school? Etc., etc. So we're proud to have here a very good school in Alicante, and I'm sure they will tell you why should we use or enroll into an international school, and the process, the benefits, and all the ins and outs. So I'm going to pass over to you. I think Irene is going to start with the presentation, correct?
Correct, thank you.
Over to you, Irene, thanks.
Okay, very good. Well, there's some general advice that we would like to offer to all the families before they relocate, and it's based also on the experience of the current families at King's College, how they have shared the process was for them. And of course, I would say it's important that they involve the children in the process, and if possible, that they visit Alicante and the school before or even during the process. It's something that can be very helpful when the children are excited about the move, and also they come and see the school and they can picture themselves being there and they see the children. So it's very important. And of course, the third most important advice would be to find a good school. There are other important advice, such as to find the right area, neighborhood. Of course, most of the families, they tell us that they first rented and then they were able to decide where to live. So this takes a lot of research and planning ahead. It can be stressful. So it is important that they are advised, not only obviously on the legal aspects and all the processes, paperwork, the consulate, the visas. This is something that is always a big hassle, but also when they come to visit us in terms of enrolling and the whole process, what it takes. Something that is important, for instance, is that we enroll all year long. So international schools, in our case, King's College, they can enroll early on or apply, and that gives a lot of peace of mind in terms of when they know they have found the school for the children and the children are happy. It makes everything else easy. And of course, there's some other advice to being connected with the people at home and getting good health insurance, etc. In terms of the international setting, I think it's very important that the families ask questions such as what the impact is going to be. My children are going to be able to study here and adapt easily. Is the language going to be an issue? I think the families need to know that they need to ask what are the subjects that are being taught and in what languages, especially in the Comunidad Valenciana, for instance. And also, in terms of long-term planning, am I going to go back home in a year or 2 years? Or if they're expats, if there's an opportunity of like then moving again, is it going to be easy to validate those studies, to move to another school that is going to be the same curriculum? So the children have an easy access or transition, I should say, when they move again or they go back home. Those are very important questions. So they're very important to understand also that even within international schools, in each country, there are different subjects and requirements by law, and they need to be aware of what those requirements are. And when we accept an application, we're going to look at the previous school reports, and we're going to try to work out that with the families. Very important. So that's a very important aspect, because usually the families, when they have found the school, then everything else falls in place. They usually, most families here at King's College, they tell us that they look for the school first, and then they look for the home or the area where they're going to live. So in terms of other considerations, of course, it's going to be the legal and financial support, healthcare, staying in touch with the family and things like that. Once the children come to the school, we work very hard at helping them to adapt, meet other families, make new friends. The social aspect is very important. So a key advice for us is that they encourage the children to embrace the new language and the new culture. And that's going to make it it's going to help the children to also have that experience that is going to be important to them, and it's going to enrich them. So we have, for instance, 47 nationalities at the school, although we do have a 58% approximately Spanish. So the families will have the opportunity to meet local families. They will have also the opportunity for the children to be in touch with the Spanish, but at the same time, with the opportunity to speak in a language that everybody uses in the school and they can learn. So that's very important. And we do offer booster Spanish in primary and SFL in secondary. So students can learn Spanish at their own pace while they continue with the same curriculum, which is something very important. We also have a lot of extracurricular activities, enrichment activities that are fun, residential trips. So there's also a lot of opportunities for them to have fun, make friends. The opportunity to connect with other families is very important. So we also have plenty of events to bring the families to school and have that opportunity to connect with other families, because that's one of the things that happen when they move to a country. They can feel isolated at first and not knowing people, even the adults in the family. So we do have an induction day. We have an initial meeting for new families. And those are key events to help those families to integrate quickly within the school and be happy. And that helps a lot with the move, which is very important for the families with children. In terms of academics and the school, I will let Simon to just go over a bit what makes the school special and why we consider ourselves leaders in global education.
Thank you, Irene. I apologize in advance. I've got a bit of a cough and a cold, so if I have a coughing session, I apologize now. Just a brief introduction really to King's College and who we are and what we stand for. King's has been around here in Alicante for the last 20 years. I've also been here for most of those 20 years in various roles, and most recently as the principal of the college. We have grown we're very much a family school, and we've grown from 100 pupils to 1,200 pupils today. We're a British National Curriculum school, teaching the British National Curriculum from pre-nursery, so age 2, up until IB, diploma in year 13, age 18. Our school is considered, and I'm quite happy to say, the best in the area by a long way. We're the only school in the area that's accredited by the British government. So we're a British school overseas, which means that we allow the Ofsted inspectors to come over to us every 3 to 4 years to spend a week or so in our school to look at what we're doing. And they graded us outstanding in all areas in the last 3 inspections, which we're incredibly proud of. So if you choose King's College Alicante, you know that you'll come to a school with a very high, a very good reputation, very high standards, and your children will be looked after, and we'll do our best to make sure they achieve their academic potential. But as Irene said, we're not just about exams. We're not just an exams machine. It's really important to us that we look after the whole child, and that we help new pupils particularly to adapt, to become part of the family here at KCA, and we put a lot of work into pastoral care and ensuring that people are happy and looked after. Our school itself, as I said, is based on the British National Curriculum, but we have to adapt it to the local market, and our license requires us to teach some Spanish subjects, as Irene has said in the past. So in nursery all the way up to year 11, we are obliged to teach Spanish, which is a great thing, I think, if you're moving to a country, for your children to be absorbing the culture, learning the language. And we find particularly with the younger kids in primary, they very, very quickly pick up language skills because they mix them with children who speak Spanish all the time in the playground. Our lessons are taught in English. There's no concern if your child can't speak Spanish. As Irene said, we do support and we put in extra help for people who are trying to learn the language. And similarly, if English is not fluent or isn't your first language, then we also have programs in place where we can support and offer additional language support for English to help bring children up to the necessary standard. But as a school, as I said, we are very much focused on educating the whole child, which is also about, I suppose, our ethos of making sure making sure everybody is valued. We have a big focus on inclusive education, and in September last year, we also were proud to be awarded the Sandia Award, which again from the UK commended us on our inclusive approach to education, meaning that whatever starting point your child comes from, our teachers make sure that each child is given an individual program, and that they make the progress that is appropriate to them at their level. And I think that's really important. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution here. We do make sure we adapt the curriculum to meet the needs of every pupil. If you know British education, then you'd be very familiar with what we do here. So we teach the normal gamut of subjects, English and maths, which you'll be used to. Languages, we teach Spanish, as I said, from nursery all the way up. We teach French, German in year 7s up, it's in the secondary school. And we've just introduced, or about to introduce, Mandarin, Chinese in the IB diploma. We also teach humanities, so arts, history, geography, the normal stuff really. We also, as an inspired school, have a focus on what they call the 3 pillars, which is ensuring that kids have equal access to academics. So academics are very important to us, and we were the highest performing group at external examinations at GCSE and A-level for the last 3 years with Inspired. That's So we're the top of 90 schools in the Inspired group. So we do believe strongly in excellent academic performance, but we also balance that with ensuring our children have access to great opportunities to do sports as well as performing arts. So we've recently just opened a new theatre, and we have a big performing arts strand that runs through the school where pupils are encouraged to get involved in things that aren't just maths, English and science. So it's very balanced education. Our GCSE results, as I alluded to, were fantastic, are fantastic each year, and we do think they're a great basis for pupils to move on to what we believe is the absolute gold standard in pre-university education, which is the IB diploma. We launched that this year for the first time. It very much aligns with our ethos. It develops real independent, self-started learners. It helps them get ready for university. And universities, was a study done by Oxford University not so long ago that concluded that kids that came through with the IB diploma did much better at university than pupils that had come through the A-level program, which is what we'd offered to date. So for us, it was the next phase in our development. It's been really well embraced by our staff, and the kids are incredibly excited about the diploma program and what it involves. So that's us in a nutshell, really, from an academic perspective. I suppose one word of warning on grades or year groups is that we follow the British system here, but on a very strange January to December calendar. So you will need to speak very carefully if you're interested in joining us to Irene to make sure that we get you in the right year group and that we make sure that your child is in with the right age group of children. But obviously we'll be open for question and answers at the end of this, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about us as an organisation and about the education we offer our children.
Good, very good. Thank you, Simon and Irene. Very good. Pedro, we're going to just jump now into the situation where people from different countries, obviously, we could talk about the non-European and European, Pedro, decide to move to Alicante and start a new life here. You see, I mean, we are surprised at so many nationalities, but Alicante is a good place where they just really like to start for at least 1 year of experience, and they decide to bring their children, right? Now, Pedro, could you please tell us a little bit, what are the possibilities once they have decided first that they want to move to a city and enroll the children into school? What sort of visas or documents you recommend them to start getting and putting together? Over to you, Pedro.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. Obviously, there are some situations or at this time right now, because of probably the pandemic, has caused thinking about what am I going to do with my life, what am I going to do with my family. And we are having in the last years a lot of attraction, a lot of questions, a lot of situations where family wants to move into Spain, into this area specifically, but also in the south, in Andalusia, in this area in Valencia, in region of Costa Blanca, Balearic Island. It's been a lot of attraction to move to Spain, but obviously there are some situations where people at the end ask about immigration. They ask about maybe make an investment and ask about taxes. So all these three things are absolutely connected. Obviously, when you are going to move in a family, one of the main points, and this is absolutely without discussion, is about the school. I mean, families firstly need to attach, if they have a school, to bring the children. And if this works, then they think about immigration. How do they do it? They do it by non-lucrative visa. They do it by an investment visa. They do it by now that we have, and I will explain about the nomad visa. And then also, obviously, we speak about if there is any investment, or what about taxes, what about all the situations that is going to be affected and you need to take into account. For example, today, this morning, I had a client that they had some situation where they were going to become, at least they were thinking about becoming resident this year. And obviously there is a situation where some investments, some groups, some pension funds, some situation where if you get a lump sum of money, if you cancel and get another investment, it's going to attract some capital gains tax in Spain. And sometimes it's higher, a lot higher than what is supposed or what is thought about the family. So there are situations where you need to make a plan on this, a planning on before you move. Normally, families do not move very quickly as in 3 months' time. They plan really on that, but it's something that needs to be checked. First thing, or the entrance door to come to Spain, obviously, is immigration. Right now, before the Nomad Visa, we had normally, I would say, 90% of the situations for third country citizens, because there is, like, I always put the same example. There are two queues really in immigration issues. One of the queues is for European Union citizen, which is soft. The requirements are more flexible. Is a lot easier. That's one path. And the other path is the third countries citizens, so non-European Union citizens. So those one, obviously, the requirements are higher, and the timing in most of occasions, except the investment visa, and Nomad Visa in this case, it's a longer time. So basically, from until now, as you have already introduced some things about the non-lucrative visa, the non-working visa that we had in the past, and many retiring people wants to come to Spain, live a fantastic life, and enjoy the weather, enjoy the time, enjoy the gastronomy, enjoy the culture, the country. Well, most of them, and it's focused on that, is really the non-working visa. It's a retiring visa. It's a visa where you show that you are wealthy enough to live in Spain without working. If it is forbidden really to work, and at the end you work with in the way that you manage with your insurance, with your health access in a private insurance company, or maybe you have a right from your own country that have a convention with Spain, and you have a right from the beginning to entry in the public system. Those visa obviously starts in the country where you are domiciled, where you are resident, in the Spanish consulate, or Spanish consulate where is nearest on your place of residency. Obviously, we have clients from Canada, from the United States, from all around the world, and obviously you need to focus on take which is the Spanish consulate. So on the end is applied, all the documents apply there, and one of the main documents obviously is the sufficient enough money to live in Spain. Financial means, or we say, with bank statement, investments, income that you get, like pensions, like income that you in most of the ways is guaranteed. So those situations will give you the possibility to live in Spain without working. So that will be a big round in order to be in Spain, which is the minimum is 27,000 euros per person, per principal, sorry. And every family member will be around 7,000 euros minimum. As much as you show, better. That is also a must, a recommendation. And so every family member, 7,000 euros per year, principal 27,000 euros. For example, a marriage couple will be a minimum. You need to show 34,000 euros minimum. And it's each family member, if there are children, obviously this is a retirement visa. It's focused on that, even though it's been used, and we've done it with some families, because we didn't have a Nomad Visa, and because as you said at the beginning, you are forbidden to work, but obviously there was a gray area that people was staying in Spain with a non-working visa but working for companies outside, even though there's a different kind of visa to move between companies is not well known, and is something that is the bureaucracy on the social security is a little bit complicated, I would say. So this non-working visa has been working, for example, for the British citizens a lot. And once the Brexit started, and when the Brexit, they was considered the citizens for third countries. And well, it's a criminal records for the last, it's 5 years. We say always 5 years. It's 2 years plus 3 years a declaration. And in for example, in United Kingdom, there is a ACRO, the website where you can get the criminal records. From United States or Canada, there are many institutions that you can get that, and you need to know where to get it and how to get it. And obviously, there's insurance policy which covers you the authorization of your residency. If it's for 1 year or if it's for a couple of years, well, then you need to have this done properly. Without any co-payment, and obviously including all the hospitalizations included. That three are the main things on the non-working visa, on the non-lucrative visa. On investment visa, and this is another law that says an investment visa, and also has been included this remotely working, this nomad visa really has been included in this kind of this law, this specific law. The investment visa, normally I would say that 99 or 95% of a investments visa that is got is because they have invested in property. Minimum investment is 500,000 euros. And also, you will be allowed to work, and you will be allowed, obviously, to live in Spain. You do not have to live in Spain if you don't want to. That is different from the non-working visa. If you want to renew, you need to live in Spain at least 6 months in order to renew. With the investment visa, you just can stay 1 day, or you can stay 365 days. Obviously, if you stay more than 183 days in Spain on the natural year, you will become tax resident. And of course, you will be attracted for your worldwide income. You will need to declare it in Spain. Obviously, this is general rule. There are some specifications. I'm not going to enter on that right now on taxes, but this is on an investment visa. You make an investment more than 500,000 euros on property, and then you are able to get the investment visa in Spain for you, for your spouse, for your children. That will be, and normally it's very rapid. You can do it in the Spanish consulate, where the country that you come from, or you can also do it in Spain once you are physically here with a tourist visa, for example. And now what we have is obviously this nomad visa, Ignacio, that we are right now. Obviously, everyone is learning on this, and is being approved because of requirements, because it was a lot of people was requiring, say, I want to move from my company as an employee, but I want to work in Spain because the work I do, I can do it in Spain easily with my computer. And many people use this, well, they want to no working visa. It was not correct to do it that way, even though the judges accepted to do it this way. But now we have the nomad visa, where implicates that third country citizen, obviously, we are talking about this path for third country citizens. They're able to, with the nomad visa, to come to Spain to work with your company as an employee. Obviously, the company needs to have some minimum grounds, which is 1 year existence of a company, and you have to be in the company at least 3 months. It's a very, very minimum requirements. Or if you're a professional, meaning that you're a professional, you are, as we say in Spain, autónomo. You at least you need to show that you have some clients, a client that you've been working at least 3 months. Obviously, you have to show some grounds, like you have to have a degree, a master, or at least 3 years experience on the work that you are doing. The requirements are, I would say, soft, and not big requirements on this. And I would say that as the experience that we are having, and this is very, very new, is that it's not being very, very high quality. Because, for example, when they require, which is a reputable degree, specifically, they don't say anything. It could be any university. It could be any degree that shows that you are technically or professionally on that ground. Obviously, you need to show and prove that the work that you are going to do in Spain is the kind of work that you use the computer, you use telematic tools in order to do this kind of job. Obviously, the kind of job that cannot be done that way will not be accepted. That's obviously a sense of common. So it's going to just attract this nomad at this time right now in the world is given around. You can see in the internet there is a lot of people like working in different countries. Spain is one of them, and is being attracted on that. And well, one of the questions that is done obviously on these situations is about taxes. What do you do with taxes? I mean, if I move to Spain, I'm going to have to declare all my worldwide income in Spain. Well, that's also is being amended, not just really for third country citizens, also for non-residents, even though this is a little bit complex. But just to give like a flat information really is, if once you become with a nomad visa, as we say, for example, and you become resident in Spain, you could be attracted if you wanted to. If you wanted to, it's a faculty on these specific tax benefits or tax rules, which it will be taxed a flat fee of your income, 24%. Let's say, let's remind again, if you're an employee, you just work for your company. If you're working as a professional, you can work most of your work has to be done for companies outside, 80%, and a maximum of companies in Spain, 20%. But you can attract it and say, well, I will just pay 24%. Maybe your income is too high, is high. And in a regular basis, you will be paying like 34, 42, and in an average rate. Well, you may say, well, I will get this 24%. But also you will be able to avoid some situations where, because you are going to just pay 24% of the income that you get. What about capital gains? What about interests? What about dividends? What about wealth tax? That will not be included. On inheritance tax, we have adapted, really. We have different interpretations. We've been discussing this. We understand it's included because it's residency, really, even though it's not residency for this kind of income and taxes. But it has a really big, I would say, benefit, really, if someone is gonna just to attract as a non-resident and just pay a flat fee at 24%, but avoiding some of the situations that may be affected and maybe affect you and pay a lot more in Spain. That is something, obviously, what we say, Ignacio, we say to all the clients, I mean, just to make a planning, just to make with calm and checking what is going to be the future, what are you going to do in the future. We have many clients that say, okay, I'm going to move to Spain, I'm going to sell the property in Spain, and I'm going to move to Spain, I'm going to buy a property, or maybe not. I mean, these have tax implications if you go to a regular basis or not. I mean, and it's something that needs to be checked properly. So as I said, I mean, the non-working visa, the investment visa, and the nomad visa, obviously, with many situations with the school that we've been speaking about. I mean, obviously the student visa, which is a simple visa to start. That's really the area, but always connected to I would say with taxes. It's something that is, for me, is extremely, Ignacio, is extremely important. The investment that you do, the immigration, taxes is extremely important to connect everything in order to plan everything at the same time, in order to avoid whenever you move, if you are tax resident, being aware that you will not be implicated in some situations where you have made some transactions, some withdrawals, some capital gains that will not be taxed in Spain. I think, Ignacio, this is to summarize this briefly explanation about this kind of visa, but obviously I will be happy to answer many questions that may arise.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Pedro. Let me just, I know we could turn very complex because probably people, they're back in their homes thinking what is the best and suitable visa for me. And everyone might be different, you know, in a different scenario. Now, let's cover what about if you are European, or how about if you are married or partner with a European? Because this, Pedro, really changed the whole scenario for visas. Because in this situation, if your parents are now planning to move to Spain, decide to come over to Spain, obviously, I assume one will be European and the other one will be probably not European. Now, we need to make resident the first part, okay? The one who's European, which the requirements is completely less, you know, I will start that they require you a minimum of 9,000 euros deposit in the bank for at least 3 months. And there are ways to do it and have it all ready. So when you come, probably you might be planning about coming July, August, because your children will start in September. So we should do all this planning before to probably come on a trip, do all with power of attorney, open the bank account, everything. Then once you have one family member register as a European citizen, what we call it the green card, residency permit, then we could, after 6 months, with the money in place, so I recommend you to open a bank account, even if you're from abroad, and doing before, then you will have your rental contract. If you're going to rent, padron, obviously, as Pedro stated, the health insurance. And once you have all in place and your husband or wife has registered with that residency, then you could change and do the family grouping. Okay, so, but it's good and important to do everything and plan in advance, because you could do it once you arrive in Spain if we have everything in order, like the marriage certificate, the children's birth certificates, etc., etc. Is an easier and faster process, and that residency permit will be issued for 5 years. Now, people get a bit lost on what is a visa and what is a residency and what is a tax scenario. As Pedro stated, bear in mind, Spain, the calendar year is from the 1st of January to the 31st of December in a calendar year. I know in the UK it goes from April to April, and then you could have to put in place this dual taxation treaty or the FD9 form to stop the taxation in one place and make the other one. That's what really needs planning. If we're talking about the States, the United States tax you on everything, but there is a dual taxation treaty between Spain and the US. So it's worth planning to do these in advance because, you know, everything takes time to understand. Once you're on, it will be easy on a rolling basis. So Pedro covered the normal visa, the golden visa, and with the golden visa, Pedro as well, they could even do investments. I don't know if you did talk about investing in public debt or investing in bonds now of €1 million, and they could always, when they go, take it back with them. So it doesn't necessarily, the golden visa, oblige people to do only with property, because a lot of these people might not even want to be tied in a property.
Exactly.
And yeah,
that's right. Mm-hmm.
And then they could even go, there are different type of visas, like the work visa, which if it doesn't suit you, the normal visa, it could be the work visa. But bear in mind, and this is piece of advice that we're giving you, if you're watching from outside Spain, one thing is the immigration side and one thing is the taxation side. As Pedro stated, is important. Now, whether you rent or buy a property is irrelevant here because that will be part of the conveyancing. And some people might prefer to start renting and make decisions. The important thing to watch out for the taxation that applies to you and your family. Very important if you're retiring or getting a lump sum, especially from the UK when you've got a 25% allowance. Don't get confused because Spain probably will not respect that, and we'll have to see what kind of visa it suits you best. Pedro stated as well, depends on the consulate. I know some consulates make it very, very difficult. They are a bit overwhelmed, and it's important to take this into consideration. Bear in mind, and from my experience, I tell you, seeing parents as well struggling with problems, it's important they do planning. It's important they know if you could have everything in place, as Sam said, from January, or at least put everything together. So if you're coming on July, you'll have everything ready. So there is no any problem for you to be thinking about what about this, what about that. Okay, so it is important to plan ahead everything. And I don't know, Pedro, if we should start with questions. I don't know if Simon or Irene they have any questions specific now they could jump and talk through. If it came out something, or shall we just jump from the chat? Sorry, Irene, I think you're mute. Yeah, you're mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, I think it's best to jump to the questions because I think most of the questions related to different types of visas. I know a lot of the families, sometimes they apply for a student visa. So maybe from your end, you can explain a bit also on that. We provide, when a student is accepted, a letter that they can bring to the consulate, of course. But I'm sure there are other things they need to take into consideration in order to decide which visa is best for the family.
Pedro, would you like to talk a little bit about the student visa? Or because I know you've been dealing with, in another school, dealing with a lot of visas for students. Or would you like to just start with the questions?
Yeah, well, just, I mean, the student's visa is obviously let's say more simple. We are normally at this time right now, but we are in many ways recommending to do it once you are in Spain. Obviously, there are some families that they want to do it at the beginning when they are in their home country. Obviously, there's a difference between if someone is a legal age or not. When it's legal age, obviously the requirements are higher in terms of criminal records, for example, and in terms that someone is applying for staying more than 6 months in this case. But in basically, obviously, about the having access to the system is to the health system is obviously a must. And as it says by Irene about the letters or the inscription of some schools are identified in the official school in order to be able to have access to the student's visa. The student's visa sometimes it takes and I don't know exactly now why, but it takes sometimes more than what we think. Basically, yesterday we have a client from the United States wants to learn in Spanish. Just is the legal age over 18 years old, and it took around 5 months, which is a lot. I mean, I was surprised they took all that time, but well, we are having this sometimes. Also, Spain is a country that is attracting a lot of students. And obviously, sometimes there is some peaks, some points that are collapsed. Really, the Spanish consulates on abroad. But the students, I mean, this is something that obviously works very well, and is something that obviously you need to find out with the schools. All the schools they know perfectly if they are inscribed or not in the system to be able to use their students visa, and it's something very, very, let's say, standard to do it. The students visa. Yeah. Obviously, there are some situations where there are problems, and obviously it's important to instruct a lawyer, a specialized lawyer on immigration. I'm reading right now I was thinking about one of the questions that has been said. It's about the golden visa, because I listened by some clients about, because Portugal, it looks like some is removing this. But this came from many years ago. This doesn't come from today. There was a file open in the European Union about Portugal, why it's like a heaven in order to attract investments. And in some way it was not perfectly done. Spain, it looks like we did it perfectly. There is no file against Spain at all. There are some other countries like, I mean, in Europe, we have like different like tax havens, really. It's not tax haven. It's like soft countries with soft implication taxes, like say Ireland, let's say Netherlands, let's say Malta, Cyprus, Portugal. And those countries, in many ways, were having some situation where it looks like that they are tax haven, and it looks like they are opening and competing with the rest of the countries. But Portugal did it with the golden visa. We did it, I think, incorrectly. I'm not gonna answer why, but what it looks like, this is connected with, obviously, with the Spain golden visa. But as far as I know, and responding, Tamara, thank you, Tamara, for making this question. Is as far as I know, it's been cancelled or suspended golden visa for those investors from Russia. But this is a politic measure, a politic decision. I have not read even the magazine. I mean, if you have a link, please send it to me. Situation where any administration right now in Spain is looking for canceling the golden visa at all. I have not read that. Possibly, maybe, but this will come in some years. This will not be probably at the beginning. Maybe it's changed, maybe it's requirements, but I think the requirements in Spain are quite correct in this way in order not to.
Pedro, let me just add, the golden visa in Portugal and Spain are not the same. That's to start with. Then you have the issue that there are political problems because they raise so much. I mean, it is so difficult now for people, locals, to get rentals, I think, in different areas, that they had to stop it because of that kind of like inflation. In Spain, it was always 500,000 euros minimum. In Portugal, it was not 500,000. So it was easy to get probably a 200,000. And that's what so I cannot see Spain, well, it will depend on the government that we will end up having in the future. But I don't see a measure that is attractive for Spain, and I don't see that happening. But if, let's say, if that will disappear, which I doubt it to start with, you have these kind of different visas as well. You know, you could still have a different opportunities. For example, the requirements for a golden visa and a non-lucrative visa are very, very similar. So I would say pretty similar, but without investments. So the only difference is that you are not allowed to work. So the beauty of the golden visa, you could come in and out, you could be non-resident, you have a lot of free disposal. But to the answer to Tamara, Pedro, We're not the same than Portugal, and the requirements were not the same. So I don't expect, but it's a politic approach.
No, this is what I was trying to say. I mean, is that obviously in Portugal it was open in the last years. I mean, this kind of like internal file and just to check that, but it has not been done in Spain. Spain is clear. I mean, it's transparent on this.
Mm-hmm. Pedro, shall we just get the answer from Michael, yeah, or Michelle? I think it's Michelle. Yeah.
For
Michelle is saying, how long does it take to get the residency permit? Once you have it, can you stay without limit? I mean, for the EU citizens, right? I think, Michelle, if you're talking, if you're a European citizen, that's what I think. The requirement we did cover is you come to Spain, you open a bank account. The first person is minimum 9,000 euros. You don't need the criminal records in place. You need the padron, the health insurance, and minimum after the 9,000 and prove that you've been living for more than 3 months, you will be able to get it. Okay. And exactly the same with the family members. The only difference is that you need to add extra money on top of that. Okay. So you will need probably for a couple here another 7,000 on top of it, and children. So it's a matter of you confirming how many people you are, and we could tell you exactly the time and the money that you need to have it in place. Right, Pedro, would you like to carry on with the other questions, because we're running out of time then?
Okay, one question is saying, I'm already Spanish resident. My wife and son will be arriving with me in Spain this July, initially with a Schengen visitor visa. I understand that he is resident in Spain and applying for residency using the relocation visa facilities. My question is, can we register my son in school immediately in July whilst we wait for residency visa? Yes, the answer is yes. I mean, once you apply for that, I mean, obviously it's going to get, and unless Irene or Simon, they tell me a different thing, I understand it could be, obviously it will be, I understand, Irene, when someone applies but do not have a residency in this case, do you inscribe it? Because it's probably a question that is made to you. I understand that.
Well, this is an easy one because one of the parents is a Spanish resident.
Okay.
So they already are, one of them is legally and they can provide that. So that would be easy. One thing that's important is that they don't need to wait to be physically in Spain to start the process. This is very important even for other families that the visa process is going to take longer. We do everything through the website. We have a program called Open Apply. They can inquire, they can do virtual visits, online meetings with me. The assessments that they take place, they can all take place online. So most families that are overseas, they will actually secure the places and they initiate the process with admissions while overseas. And then at some point when they come to Alicante, then they will be able to come and visit the school or meet with me. But in this case, it's very easy. But in some cases where the visas take longer, I would advise that they start the admissions and the registration process much earlier, because they don't need to actually come to Alicante to then enroll the child. They can do it very early on.
Thank you, Irene. I think it's clear. Thank you, Lee, for making the question. Ignacio, I cannot read it. I mean, kind of like have access.
We've got one from Preston, and I don't know if he's for Simon or Irene. How do you guys assess a home-schooled student for entry? I don't know, Irene, if you want to take that one. Or what do they mean? Do you know what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't know if Simon knows. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear? Let me just unmute. I'm unmuted. We follow the same process for all students, really. So our application process, as part of it, we will assess a child's ability using what we call Cat4 tests. It really does depend on what year group the child is looking to go into. So if they're older, if they're in secondary, then we do a cognitive test, really, ability test, which is online, which Irene will arrange. And that's irrelevant of any past curriculum or past learning. It basically assesses a child's innate ability, and it allows us to make a decision as to whether or not they can access our curriculum. Obviously, if they're younger, then we need to speak to them and find out in a bit more detail about their history. We also expect all students to have an interview, normally with either my head of secondary or the head of primary, to talk through what their experiences are, what they've learned, to make sure that we are able to support and continue learning from the place where they've stopped, really. And I suppose the most important thing for us over and above content, really, depending on where they're joining us, is that they have a good level of English, particularly from years 4 up. We really need to make sure they're absolutely fluent, or as close to fluent as possible. But the content at homeschooling is not such a big deal, provided we know we can work out if there are any gaps and how we can possibly work with the family to bridge them.
That's very good, very interesting. I don't know, Irene, would you like to add something from the school point of view? Any recommendation Simon and yourself will make to the family? I mean, we always insist on doing planning. You know, we don't like the stress. I'm sure you don't want the stress neither. If they could, I always insist, start in January, put in paperwork together. You know, we're comfortable. You know, what would you recommend you both from school? So people watching now from abroad, what would you like to say, Irene and Simon?
I think from everything that you have mentioned, it has to do with the visas, really. From this specific year, we have had many students who have had issues with the delays. I know, and you mentioned it before, in the United States, we have seen an increase of families coming from the United States, but there has been great delays in the visa processing in the consulates. And I know that's true for many countries for different reasons. So to start planning early on in terms of obtaining information about the school, visiting or talking to me, and then the admissions process, which can be done fairly quickly, but obviously we need the application, the reports, because once the families know they have the place secure and they have that letter and the process of all the legalities that come after that in terms of not only the visas, but finding the place to live and all of that, it can take time. So planning and being advised and is very important. And I think from our families' experience that they have brought with them is that once they have secured the place in the school and they know the children have their places and they're going to be happy and they're going to continue within international education, they can focus on everything else, which usually it can be a bit more cumbersome.
Yeah, I see what Irene says, but I think also, as you said earlier, Ignacio, doing it early and making sure that that the visa is approved, if possible, outside of the school year is really important, because it's really disruptive if a child has a visa and they need to renew, and for whatever reason there's a problem and they have to leave school in April. You know, if that process is happening in June and July, it's much easier. So I think that's really important to make sure that the timing, as you say, is correct, because the kids, it's very disruptive anyway for a child to start a new school and to make new friends, etc., and the trauma of that and having to leave mid-year is really difficult to manage. So that's really important. And the other thing from a school perspective, not a visa, I'd say do your research, make sure that you find a school that you resonate with, that shares your values, shares your beliefs, because there's lots of different schools out there, and it's important for you and for us that we're aligned in terms of our philosophy and what we stand for. That's really important if your child's going to thrive with us. So take your time, do your research, and get involved when you're here. I think there's nothing better than parents who are actively involved in their kids' education, and it's really important to us that people are involved and get involved, and the kids tend to progress much better if that's the case.
Well, that's very good. Pedro, to wrap up, what would you recommend to the parents that they are listening now? Obviously, you said a lot, but just to summarize.
We are talking about, yes, you plan. yes, you obviously, yes, you connect. I was said in the beginning. Yes, start with making some queries, some planning about the situation about your family, situation about your maybe an investments, and obviously, as I said at the beginning, dealing with immigration, but moving to Spain, being resident has tax implications. So be aware of those that, in order to be connected, in order to now what you should do before you come, and what are you going to do once you come, and what are the tax implications of that. And regarding immigration, obviously, yes, to plan everything correctly in order to not to stress, and in some point that it happens sometimes that things are a little bit delayed. So plan everything correctly at the beginning.
Okay, well, thank you very much. To wrap up, basically, I just might say, from a parent point of view, I think it's quite important you find, as Simon said, the right school that fits you in. And I think we've been honored to have you in here. We're very happy with you guys. We have clients that they are in school. We know we work with you guys because we really believe it is a great school. And I really encourage the clients to please do things in advance. You know, we will help you even though you're in trouble, whether you have problems, but let's try to avoid all these things. You know, these things can be avoided. And I'm going to share with you now, before we go, Juan Fran is sharing now. Just we're trying to fly over a little bit of Costa Blanca for those who don't know the school. And you don't know the area, what you can see, what you can enjoy. So I thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer to your question in the future. You've got Simon's, Irene, Pedro's, and my email just in case you need some private conversations. Thank you very much again. Over to you, Juan Fran.
Maybe because I was born on the Mediterranean, I feel so connected to this sea, to this land, to this light. Because the Costa Blanca is my passion, it's my life, it's who I am. It defines me as a person and sets me apart from the rest. Yes, it's important not to forget who we are and where we come from. That helps us understand the meaning of our lives. By this sea I was born and grew up, laughed and cried too, the emotions of life. Our land is health and well-being, the joy of living, in our own way, in our own style. Authentic. That's why so many artists come to the Costa Blanca looking for inspiration, to capture the essence, that light that defines our character, and not just artists. So many people come here and stay. The sky, the landscape, the rosy sunsets, the warm sand under your feet, the sea breeze on your skin, the mountains, and seeing the sea from the heights. I love to close my eyes, take a deep breath, and feel the sun on my eyelids. As if the light was inside me. I can't explain it. As my grandmother used to say, life is full of inexplicable things. You have to live them, feel them. I had to live in other parts of the world to really value what we have here. I have everything I need. My future is here. I've learned to enjoy the little things, the little pleasures in life. And we know a lot about those. There's nothing more authentic than feeling happy in the place where you were born. And however hard I try, I can't explain it in words. Costa Blanca, authentically ours.